So Bishop, so when you walk in, so you've got two basic looks. You've got the normal Bishop look, which is immaculate from head to toe, right? And then you have what I like to call hip hop Bishop.
Yeah.
And like you're walking in like hip hop, your shoes are glowing,
yes.
Man, they're glowing.
These are designer tennis shoes. One of our members purchased these for me, and
it's
said,
like,
I'm gonna go with it.
If the bishop went hunting, this is what he'd wear. No orange vest, he's wearing these shoes. Because those seems like something that I would wear.
Yeah.
But you're rolling in, absolutely. But you've got this old school like Run DMC look too, which is good. That's
I can pull it off, man.
You can pull it off.
I can pull it off.
I like it. I feel more comfortable with hip hop Bishop. I'm like, okay, now we're starting to dress alike, like an old couple. We're starting the last week. Last week we were wearing the same shirt. Here, I'll start wearing suits soon. That's never gonna happen. All right. Well, Bishop, we started a new series on Sunday,
yes.
And the series is called Uncomfortable Christmas because in Matthew chapter 1 and 2, it tells the story of Jesus' birth,
yes.
but it starts off
different slant.
It starts off with a genealogy. There's Joseph wondering if he should divorce Mary. You have
that's what we're dealing with Sunday,
right? You have the genocide in there, the murder of the innocents, and so. This isn't, the reason we're bringing it up is that this isn't the Christmas story that is normally told on Christmas cards,
right.
And yet it's a crucial part of the Christmas season.
Yes.
So we have two questions, and they went in very opposite directions. In fact, one question is 2 words long, and one question is 200 words long.
Yes.
So we're going to play the polar opposites thing game this morning. So first question is 2 words long. Explain Melchizedek. That's the shortest question we have ever. And whoever is writing this question is like, I'm going to go into a deep, obscure part of the Bible and talk about this. So Melchizedek, and I'll handle the first one, you can handle the second one. Melchizedek, okay, so we're going to put on our theology hats for just a second. We'll take it right back off. So there's a thing called a type in the Bible. And what a type is, and we both know this, that what a type is God stuck things in the Old Testament to point to Jesus in the New Testament, right?
Yes.
So there's some they're explicit, where the New Testament will say this points to this, and then there's some that are kind of implicit. So, for example, an implicit one is Joseph. Nowhere in the New Testament does it say that Jesus is a type of Joseph, but we all look at Joseph's story and say Joseph is like an Old Testament version of Jesus. With that being said, Melchizedek. Okay, here we go. 3 minutes, and then y'all are going to like the second question better than the first one, but hold on because they asked it. Okay, so here it is. In the Old Testament, in Genesis, there's a guy named Melchizedek. Melchizedek is an interesting character because he's a king and he's a priest. So he's an interesting character because he's a priest king, but he's also interesting because his priesthood, normally your priest, you think of the Levitical priesthood, like the one, so God set up this system and he put Aaron's descendants in place. And those priests would serve from here to here, where Melchizedek isn't connected to a lineage. And so it seems like he's just always been a priest and always will be a priest. So he's like this Old Testament eternal king priest. And the New Testament, specifically Hebrews, says Jesus is a king and he's a priest like Melchizedek. Jesus isn't a priest like the Levites or Aaron, because they have a specific beginning and they have a specific end to their priesthood. But Jesus is more like Melchizedek, the New Testament says, Hebrews chapter 5, because he's this combination of priest-king, and his priesthood lasts forever.
Forever.
Right? And so that's the weird connection between this weird priest king from Genesis chapter 14 to Jesus. You have examples like Jesus is the new temple. Jesus is the new Passover lamb. All these are things that are Old Testament pictures of who Jesus was. And so Melchizedek is just kind of an obscure example of, in the theological world, what we call a type. It's a type of Christ. So that's
Figurative. Yeah.
that's that. We got through that. Boom.
Damn.
Now, this one Bishop's going to handle, and I'll piggyback off of him.
Let me say something prior to that.
No, please.
Let me make a correction of what I stumbled and said at the 9 o'clock service when I was dealing with Bathsheba. I said David and Bathsheba came up with a plan to do away with Uriah. It was just David coming up with that plan. So I wanted to make that correction.
Right.
So I did have to said it right at the 10:30, but I didn't say it right at the 9 o'clock. Please forgive me.
The Bible is inerrant. We are not. We will make mistakes, and as long as we come back and apologize, we should be okay.
There you go.
Okay. This is more like a paragraph, but sometimes we edit down the paragraphs, but this one I think is important to go from beginning to end, because this is a bigger issue than this specific question, and we'll talk about why in a second. So here's the question, kind of the statement question. This question could be a little bit delicate or sticky. Pastor and Bishop, I mean no disrespect, and I haven't had any experience with either of you that makes me think that you're trying to disparage women.
Right.
But I was a little confused by the choice of sinners mentioned in the genealogy: Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. They were all women. And genealogies from the Bible that I can think of tend to focus more on paternal figures. So even mentioning Bathsheba as an adulterer rather than David felt a little bit odd. She's only mentioned as the wife of Uriah in the genealogy of Matthew, while David's mentioned by name. So it may have just been an oversight, but maybe there's some reasoning or thinking that I can't see. I'm curious if there was a reason why these 4 women were specifically chosen out of the genealogy as examples in the sermon. Thank you for answering these questions each week, even when they're probably not fun, because it's really helpful, and I look forward to Wednesdays because of this each week. So just to summarize, you spoke of, because we write the sermon series, just to clarify, we write the sermon series together. We agreed to it beforehand. We agreed this is what we're going to do, but just however the weeks flow out, either you deliver it or I deliver it. You specifically, for those of you that didn't see it, but you specifically in the sermon, and we'll talk about why, talked about 4 women that were in Matthew's genealogy, and why it's important that they're there. And to this person, at least, that came off, I'm interpreting, reading the lines, it came off wrong. So let's start with why did you focus, let me ask it clear, why does Matthew focus, so therefore you focused, on not only these 4 women, but the questionable inclusion of these 4 women?
Yeah, it was to highlight them in a positive way, though they were involved in some negative things, like with Rahab, her background, as a prostitute, all of those things. Some of them had some negative background, but at the end of the day, they were part of God's overall plan of redemption.
Right.
And so it was never to throw, modern day term, shade toward them, but to put the spotlight to see how that God allowed them to shine in the midst of some negativity of their past, which we are all included in that scheme. For the Bible tells us we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity, and in sin were we conceived. But at the end of the day, it's through the plan of redemption, regardless of our race, color, or creed, that God makes room for us in his overall plan of redemption. And so, once again, it was not to throw any shade or negativity towards them, but to highlight them because in the midst of everything, God made room for them by his grace.
Right.
In the long-term plan of redemption.
Yeah. So, just to say it in the way that I would say it, they're gender outsiders.
Yes.
They're ethnic outsiders. They're moral outsiders.
Yes.
And so.
Good, I like that.
Right. And so they, by all rights, should not be in this genealogy.
Right.
So the fact that God inserts them for all time is he's saying, I'm proud of them.
Yes.
I claim them.
Yes.
So it's not a hey, let's focus on the women because the women are bad. It's like look how amazing God is because he's breaking all of the stereotypes that in this patriarchal society they would have followed.
Yeah. And then moving toward the end of the sermon, I included Moses.
Right.
David, Peter, and Paul, who had all had some negativity in their life.
Right.
Just like the ladies.
Just like the ladies.
Yes.
So to summarize on that, because I want to talk about something that's like, I want to piggyback on this, but to summarize that, just the point was, this is that it's glorious that they're there, and we are celebrating that they're all there. I heard someone else ask about your sermon, and they said, what they asked about is not really the point, but I'll talk about it. But they said, did you feel that Bishop's sermon was a little prosperity gospel-ish? Right. And I said no, and I said, let me tell you why. We kind of talked about how traditionally African-American sermons, and we've talked about this before, focus more on victory, focus more on blessing, and why those things are. And so we had that conversation. So I thought it was interesting that we had this question and that question. And here's what I want to say. What's interesting is people, and the first is a no-doubt statement. People hear
differently
through the filter of their lenses, right? And so the person that asked the prosperity gospel thing is someone who's been hurt by the prosperity gospel before. And so they're very sensitive. They're very sensitive to that. And any kind of inkling, they're going to kind of bristle a little bit and say, was that or wasn't that? This person, I have no idea who asked this question, but I'm assuming this person either is very sensitive to the rights of women or has been hurt as well, maybe both,
all of that,
right?
All of that
mixed together. And so, and one of the things that we all have, as human beings, we all have to sift through, but you and I specifically as pastors have to sift through, is we have to get up on stage and give to the audience what we believe that God gave us.
Bottom line, yes.
And allow God to do with that what he will.
Yes.
A lot of times people ask me, and I'd like you to kind of speak in on this, but a lot of times people ask me like, when I get off stage on Sunday, they're like, oh, how do you think you did? And, I've kind of gotten to the point is like, I tell them, I was like, I feel like I gave to Grace United what the Lord gave to me, and I have to emotionally allow everyone else to do with this what they will.
Yes.
Accept it, reject it, judge me,
all of that,
whatever.
All of that. That's the best way to answer a question like that. When people say, "How do you think you did?" I believe I delivered what God gave me, and I trust the Holy Spirit to do the rest. And that's what we have to rely upon. We have to rely upon our study, our prayer, our preparation to deliver what God has given us from the scriptures. And we have to trust God with the rest, Paul said, I plant, Apollos waters, but it's God who gives the increase. And I believe that God is doing that in our midst with the diversity that's in both services. I believe between the two of us, God is allowing the Holy Spirit to feed people, to reach people exactly where they are.
Yeah.
In this day and time, if people are not getting what they need, they'll stop showing up. But for the mere fact that people are still filling this place up at both services, it lets us know we're doing something right, and to God be the glory for what he's doing. Right. Because we're in a situation, all of my ministry up until the last 2 years, I have preached to predominantly African Americans. Yeah. Most of your ministry, you have preached to whites. So to see what God is doing in this diverse membership, we have to rely and depend upon the Spirit of God to do what he's going to do with reaching people where they are. Yeah.
So let me close this just by affirming two things. Number one, and I think you've seen both of them here. Number one, I think that when we make a mistake from the pulpit, I believe we'll own it.
Oh, yes.
You know, because we're going to misspeak. We're not only going to misspeak on facts, but like I'm going to cross boundaries that I didn't know was a boundary to cross, and hopefully I've learned from that. We'll do those. So I hope that you see us when we're wrong, apologizing. But I'm thankful that we have a church culture where people can say, did we cross the line of prosperity gospel? Are we disparaging women, or are we where we can have these conversations and not just hold them and hide them and let them fester into hurts, but we can say, I have a question. Can we talk about this? Yeah. So I hope that we promote this environment.
Let me just add a little bit to that.
Please.
One of the things that I never have a problem with saying, hey, I misquoted this, I missaid this, because two things. This Bible is not ours. It's the Word of God.
That's good.
And we can never mishandle that because we've got to give an account for that. And the other thing is the people, they're not our people.
Right.
These are God's people. So we're just the instrument that God has said, I'm going to use both of you for this season to do what I've called you to do, to handle my word properly, to share it properly, and to feed my people.
Yeah.
They don't belong to us. We say that sometimes so haphazardly, these are my people. No, they're really not.
They're not.
They're God's people, and that's what he had to remind Moses, you know, these are my people, that's you know, and we're going to have to give an account for God, before God, for our stewardship. And I tell pastors all the time, it's not ownership, but it's stewardship. These people don't belong to us. And some people will come and go. God just wants us to be good stewards of them while they're with us. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
We love you guys. I hope you know that.
Yes.
I know I love you, and I know Bishop loves you. I enjoy seeing how much you love your people, and I affirm that publicly. This is Grace Unfiltered. If you guys like what you see, we're part of Grace United. Go to graceunitedlr.com, 12900 Cantrell, 9:10:30, except for Christmas Eve.
Yeah, 10 Christmas, 10
one
o'clock,
service.
one service.
It's going to be lit.
Going to be lit. and don't forget this coming Sunday, if you're a new member or you're interested in becoming a new member, go on the website and get ready for a new member orientation this coming Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Cynthia?
Bye, Cynth.
Bye.